The sun goes down, the stars come out, and all that counts is here and now. My universe will never be the same. I'm glad you came. I'm glad you came.
You are listening to Paramania Radio.
Do you like ghost stories? Want to hear about some of the haunted homes and locations that I've investigated? Tune in for the latest in paranormal news and guest interviews with me, Mr. Haunted, on the Haunted Chronicles, Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, only on the Paramania Radio Network.
Are you interested in the paranormal? Want to go on an investigation at a real haunted location? And meet investigators from your favorite shows? Then the ideal place for you is Ideal Event Management. Check out our upcoming events and get your tickets now while they last at www.idealeventmanage.com.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Paramania, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
You are listening to Paramania Radio.
You just throw up your hands. It's the little things sometimes. Sometimes the world is just gone dark. Sometimes you're praying for a spark. It's the little things sometimes. But if you lift your eyes, see it in a different light. Just a color in the open sky. Let the rain fall away, 'cause today is beautiful. Lift your eyes, see it in a different light.
Hello and welcome to the Web Weavers. I'm Sprinkles Nixon, your host for today, and I do hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you are, because it is a beautiful day right here, right now. We have a very special guest that has returned to visit with us, and his name is Garnet Schulhauser. He is a retired lawyer who lives near Victoria on Vancouver Island with his wife Kathy and little dog Abby. After practicing corporate law for over 30 years in Calgary, I hope I said that right, with 2 blue-chip law firms, he retired in 2008. His first book, Dancing on a Stamp, was published in 2012, and since the release of his first book, Garnet had been active with book signing, tours, and speaking engagements that have a frequent guest and has been a frequent guest on radio talk shows. In Dancing on the Stamp, his first book, Garnet recounts how his life changed dramatically one day when he was confronted on the street by a homeless man named Abbott, who was actually a wise spirit in disguise, an emissary from the spirit world. I'm really messing this up. I'm sorry, Garnet. anyway, he's written 3 books, and the first one was Dancing on a Stamp. There's Dancing Forever with Spirit, and his newest one is Dancing on Heavenly Bliss. So if you could all please join me in welcoming back Garnet Schulhauser. And hello, Garnet. How are you? And I'm so sorry about that introduction. I really kind of messed it up, didn't I?
Hi, Sprinkles. I'm doing just fine, and I'm delighted to be back on your show.
Yes. I'm anxious to hear about the 3rd book. I do have your books. I got them on the ebook thing, and I've been trying to get through the first one, but I've been busy. But I am definitely going to follow through and read all 3 of them. So, excuse me. So, just do a little fast rerun in the first and the second, and then I'd love to hear more about your 3rd book, because that's on my next list to do of reading books.
Sure. Well, my adventure with Albert started back in 2007 when I was still practicing law. And how it happened was that I was just strolling down the street one sunny afternoon in May when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a homeless man jumped out in front of me and stopped me in my tracks. Mm-hmm. And he looked like a typical homeless man with long stringy hair and a scraggly beard and dirty slept-in clothes. But there was something very different about him. And that's what kept me in my spot rather than going around him. And he had these amazing, sparkling, dazzling blue eyes that were penetrating deep within me. And I felt like he was looking into the depths of my soul. And at the same time, his gaze was sending me this wave, this gush of pure, unconditional love that infused my whole body with an amazing sense of peace and security and well-being. It was an amazing feeling, Sprinkles, like I'd never, ever encountered before. Mm-hmm. And so I stood there like a deer caught in the headlights. And then he finally broke the spell by saying to me, "Why are you here?" And then he promptly disappeared into a nearby store. So when I finally collected my wits, I decided I better go in the store to try to find him. I needed to find out who he was and why he had stopped me. So I went into the store, but he was nowhere to be seen. I went back out onto the street, and I walked up and down for several blocks hoping to spot him, but he had seemingly disappeared into thin air. Mm-hmm. So the next day I came back to the same street, the same time of day, hoping to spot this homeless man. And after a few minutes of walking up and down, I finally saw him sitting all alone on a bench. So I went up to him and I said, "Who are you, and why did you stop me the other day?" And he said, "I'm a soul just like you, and I'm here to answer your questions and help you on your journey." And that was the beginning of a dialogue I had with this homeless man and went off and on for the next few months. And I found out his name was Albert, and he was actually one of my spirit guides in disguise. And he had told me he had come to answer all the questions I've been asking myself over the years, the life's eternal questions like, who am I, why am I here, what is my life's purpose, and what happens to me when I die. And so he during the course of our dialogue, he answered all those questions and many more that I posed to him. And then he asked me to write a book about his revelations so they'd be available to everyone. Mm-hmm. And so that led to the writing of my first book, Dancing on a Stamp. And then after that one was published, he disappeared out of my life for a little while. Then he came back into my life in a very different format. I was asleep in my bed, and I woke up suddenly, and I saw this ghost-like ethereal figure standing in the doorway of my bedroom. And when it moved closer to me, I could see it was my old friend Albert, except he was in astral form. And I said to him, "Hi, Albert, what brings you here?" And he said, "Well, I'm here to take you on a series of astral travels, some out-of-body adventures. I'm going to take you to the spirit side, to other places in the universe, and to see other sites on your planet, because I want you to write about what you see and hear in your second book." Mm-hmm. And he said, I want to take you on these trips rather than just talk to you about them, because I believe a picture is worth 1,000 words. Mm-hmm. And so then he literally reached out, grabbed my astral hand, pulled my astral body out of my physical body. Mm-hmm. I turned around and I looked, and my physical body was still sound asleep in bed. And he said, "Come on, follow me." And he took me by the hand. We rose up to the ceiling, up through the clouds, and then stopped to hover at a high point above our beautiful planet. He let me sort of gaze down on the place we call home, our beautiful blue planet that was floating in the inky blackness like a bejeweled pendant. It was an amazing sight to see from that perspective. And then he led me through a shimmering doorway, and once I crossed the threshold, I was on the spirit side. And the first thing that hit me was a very beautiful meadow full of lush green grass and tall, majestic trees, and resplendent with wildflowers in 1,000 different colors. So it was really quite an amazing scene. That was my very first trip to the spirit side. And that the first set of adventures I had with Albert were recounted in my second book, Dancing Forever with Spirit, which was released last year in 2015.
Yes, awesome.
And then when I finished that set of adventures and wrote the manuscript for my second book, he came back into my life again, same way, appearing suddenly in my bedroom, unannounced, in an astral form, and he basically, again, pulled my astral body out of my physical body and said, "Come on, new set of adventures." And these set of adventures were chronicled in my third book, Dance of Heavenly Bliss, which was released just last March, 2 months ago.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. One is, when you had first seen him and he brought you out from your body, it sounds like he made you feel very comfortable to allow him and very trustful to allow him to do this. But did you sense anything with one doing that? When he took your hand and pulled your astral body out, did you feel anything that could give you kind of a familiar thing to be done? Do you know what I mean?
No, he didn't do that. He just basically did it, and before I knew it, sort of my astral body's out. And I was a little apprehensive at first, Sprinkles, because I'd never done that before, that I can recall anyway. So I wasn't sure what was happening and how to play the game, so to speak. But my concerns were soon allayed because I had these long conversations with Albert, so I had a lot of confidence in him. I knew that he was there to help me, and I should have nothing to fear. And so I sort of stifled my initial apprehensive and went off with him. And then when we finished our first sort of excursion, he brought me back to my bedroom just before dawn, and I slipped back into my physical body. And when I woke up the next day, I remembered everything very vividly, and then I knew for sure that that I could always get back to my body. He would always bring me back, and there was no danger of me sort of being out there in the astral plane forever without getting back in my physical body. So he basically reassured me by that first re-entry back into my physical body. So and I felt very comfortable ever since. I've never known when he's going to show up, but I was always happy to go with him because he always had something very interesting to show me. Or he was there to introduce me to some very interesting souls on the earth plane or on the spirit side that can impart some nuggets of wisdom to me that I could pass on to everyone else when I wrote my books.
The other question I have is, when he took you on this astral journey that you had, the question was really, what were you able to see your physical body? Or was it just like a big wide screen that you just encompassed what was being shown?
Well, no. When my physical body sort of exited my physical body, yes, I could see my physical body still laying in bed, and then I would go off in astral form. And when I was in astral form, it was like I was traveling in physical form. Like I could see, I could hear. So it was like I was living in the scene wherever we went, whether it be to the spirit side or to other planets or other places on Earth. The only difference is, of course, I knew I didn't have a physical body. It was like I was light as air. I couldn't feel any weight, and I could easily pass through walls and ceilings and other hard objects that I couldn't do in physical form. So it was a very different way of traveling, but my perception was very much like as though I was there in physical form.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Now, now that I took you off track to try to get you back on the Dance of Heavenly Bliss, you are being taken to meet other people and other things. Do you know why you were meant to meet them? And And I'll let you proceed from there with your trip.
Yeah, no, I didn't know initially when I met some of these different people, but usually after the fact, I could figure out sort of what the lesson was there for me to learn and to pass on to other people. So Albert's agenda was always very well established. He didn't take me on these trips to entertain me, and it wasn't sort of a random series of adventures. He had a very set agenda that he wanted me to meet people, because every person I saw, everything I saw, was designed to provide a lesson to me and to all humanity, or provide us with a nugget of wisdom. So he had a very, very much of a predetermined agenda, which he never told me in advance, because I never knew where I was going when he came. And most of the time, I would end up someplace, and I'd see a sight or have a conversation with somebody, and I usually couldn't figure it out until after I had finished the visit as to what, the reason for it. But there was always a good reason for it.
In part of your introduction, it says that you visited the Akashic Records.
Yes.
Okay, what was that? Is it like what everybody thinks it is, a big giant library?
Yeah, it's sort of like a library. It's in a big building called the Hall of Records on the Spirit side, and inside the Hall of Records, there's a number of sort of separate, what he called viewing rooms. And we'd go into a viewing room, and there'd just be the two of us. And in the middle of this room was a large holographic globe that was sort of suspended just, in space in the middle of the room. And the globe would be, until Albert sort of worked his magic to dial in on various scenes, it would just be a swirl of blue and white vapors that didn't show anything. And then Albert would sort of wave his hand over it, and he knew how to operate it. I didn't, but then he could then zero in on scenes from past lives, from past episodes, because as you know, the Akashic Records contain the records of every life that has ever been lived anywhere in the universe. And so if you know how to operate it, you can dial into any of these past lives and view scenes from the past. And so he did that on a number of occasions for me, and it was really quite fascinating. And watching the holographic globe was like watching a 3D movie. I mean, you sort of felt like you were right in the thick of things, very close to the action. So it was really quite a fascinating way to watch some episodes from people's past.
So, what you able to see some other life forms, there and in your journey, in your astral journey?
Well, I did see. I saw some scenes from the past of both people and other creatures. But I also, when I wasn't in the Akashic Records, Albert actually took me in current time to other places in the universe where I got to meet with other beings on other planets and see other civilizations, and I could actually then chat with them in real time by telepathy. So that wasn't in the Akashic Records. So I had a mixture of both, some real time visits to other places and sometimes glimpses of past lives in the Akashic Records. So it was a bit of a, depending on where we're going or who we're seeing, we got a bit of a mixed bag in terms of how we got there.
Well, my impression of the different beings from because I've been reading a lot on the Dolores Cannon books, and I have my question is that I kind of picture like like on Star Wars they had this like a social gathering place where all the different beings and life forms gathered together and everybody was able to talk with one another, that kind of thing. Are those the same sort of kind of beings that you came across in meeting others?
Yeah, some of them were the same. And in fact, when you refer to Star Wars, the Gathering sort of Council, there is actually in our galaxy something called the Galactic Council, which I think is probably similar. I didn't get to see the Galactic Council, but Albert told me about them, and he said it's sort of the federation of various races of intelligent beings in our galaxy that have advanced technology and have learned to travel between the stars. And this council is there to sort of oversee what happens in our galaxy. And one of their functions is to find planets in our galaxy that have become capable of harboring life. And when they find one, then they sort of organize other ET races with interstellar travel capabilities to take life from one planet that has life and transport it to the new planet and seed life on the new planet. And so that's how life has spread for the most part throughout our galaxy, and in fact, that's how life began on Earth. For the most part, it was seeded by extraterrestrials from life on other planets, and so and that's one of the functions of the Galactic Council. But in terms of actually seeing other creatures that are different than humans, I've been to some human civilizations on other planets, but I've also seen. I went to one planet where there was a race of very intelligent creatures who looked very much like spiders, and they lived underground on their planet. They had very advanced technology, and one of their jobs was to monitor the planets in the galaxy to see when they were capable of harboring life, and when they found one, they would report it to the Galactic Council, who would then, as I said, organize the seeding of life. So these are spider-like creatures. I also had an encounter with some humanoid creatures that were orbiting our planet in their interstellar spaceship, and I had a brief encounter with them, and they basically said, we've been monitoring Earth for eons. We're here to sort of watch what's going on. We're here to try to help humans any way we can through sending appropriate telepathic messages to the appropriate people. Sometimes they've been able to give us a quantum leap up in our technological development. And they said basically there's a number of other races that have been monitoring Earth. I mean, all the reported sightings of UFOs, that's just some of the various crafts that are monitoring our planet that happen to get spotted occasionally. And he said that they said at some point in our future, the various groups of ETs would make open and direct contact with humans. But the time hasn't come yet. But they have had contact with some of our governments and who are aware of them, but are just too concerned that if a disclosure was made, it might cause widespread panic among humans, and that we're not ready for it. So that's why it hasn't happened. So those are some of the sort of non-human races that I encountered. There were some very interesting human civilizations that I did encounter. One in particular was on a planet many light years from Earth, a planet called Thraso. And I went there and with Albert, and this is astral traveling. And how that happens is basically it's as simple as Albert thinks that he wants us to be somewhere, and it basically boom, we're sort of there. So it's almost virtually instantaneous, even if it's many light years in distance. And so we went to this planet, traveling astrally, Albert leading the way. And when we touched down on the surface, I could see it was a very ultra modern city with flying cars and moving slidewalks and very highly developed technology. So we went into the city, and there we met with the empress of this planet. Her name was Marpesia, and she was a human just like us. And on the streets before we got there, we could see men and women who looked very much like us. But it was a very interesting twist to this place, because she said that their planet was a matriarchal society ruled entirely by women, and the men were not allowed to vote or hold any positions of power or authority. And she says that the reason they were able to achieve this is because the men have very low testosterone levels, which results from the fact that all male children are sterilized at the age of 3. And because of this low testosterone level, the men are very docile and compliant, and they have no desire to...
I think I like that.
Yeah, I think some of the women out there would. But they have no desire to assume authority or take control, and they're quite happy to live their lives the way they have. And she says they don't subjugate their men or treat them cruelly, because they're free to go ahead and pursue recreational activities or artistic endeavors or just enjoy life. And they're quite happy. They're quite content. And so that's the way their planet was run. She said that they obviously don't have sexual unions, and their children are artificially incubated in incubators using female eggs inseminated with sperm from from the sperm bank, which is populated by sperm from some of the men who aren't sterilized. So that's how they have their babies. It's a very peaceful society. She said they don't have any crime or violence, and any disagreements that the women have are always settled peacefully without any animosity and without any violence. So it's a very peaceful, harmonious society. And she said they weren't always like that long time before, they were a patriarchal society ruled by violent and abusive men who ruled over the women. And then one day, one of the women had a vision in a dream that told her that one of the plants that grew in their forest, if ingested by the men, would drastically reduce their testosterone levels. And so she secretly harvested this plant, spread the news to other women. Gradually, they fed this to all the men on the planet. And, a few decades later, the women were in control. And that's the way it's been ever since. So it was a very interesting, different take on how human civilization can operate.
Well, it sounds like there's some sort of universal law that the other planets and stuff, are aware of. Do you know what I mean? Like, for instance, as far as I know, we are the only planet that has free will. That's kind of like up in the air because we don't have that for a fact. But and there are certain laws where they cannot come in and have us do things that our free will prevents them from doing that kind of thing. We have to choose what is right for us.
And sorry, you sort of blacked out there for a second.
That's what I'm saying is that there's some sort of universal law that takes place in the galaxies, in the universe, that other planets are also aware of. Because if we have, we are said to have be the only planet that has free will. So it is also been said that they cannot interfere with our free will. So they have to. And that's a law, a universal law. So what I'm saying is that as you did your astral traveling, did you find this that for each planet, each galaxy, they have their laws that they go by?
Yeah, there are some universal laws for sure. In terms of us being the only civilization or the only creatures that have free will, I didn't find that because I certainly found that there was free will on this matriarchal society, and there probably is elsewhere. But it is true that the extraterrestrials who are monitoring Earth are not allowed to unduly interfere with what happens on Earth, with what happens when we exercise our free will. And so basically, their law says that that's sort of a prime directive, that they can't jump in and just sort of fix everything for us. So that's why they've had to sit by and watch, basically helplessly, as we've killed each other in wars and conflicts over the years, because they're not allowed to sort of come in and stop it or destroy our weapons. And that's just part of the way that the law that says that they have to let life on the planets play itself out, unless it gets to the point where something that the civilization on those planets would do, like on Earth, that might just totally destroy the planet. Then they can stop us. But in the meantime, they have to sort of stand by helplessly while we kill each other, with murders, genocides, terrorist attacks, wars, and so on. And that's been the history throughout the way it's happened throughout the course of history. And this ET that I talked to that was orbiting our planet said, we've had to watch some of your other civilizations on Earth develop very advanced technology, rise up to a very high plane, and then end up destroying themselves. And, two notables are, of course, Atlantis and Lemurius, the ones we know about, plus, as they said, there was several others that we're not even aware of yet. And so their concern, of course, was that humans right now on Earth, our civilization is at a very high state of development. We've developed our technology to a large degree, but our emotional and spiritual intelligence has not kept pace. So that's why there's still too much violence and conflict and so on going on. We let our negative emotions get out of control. But they really hope that we don't crash and burn like some of the other civilizations in our past, and that we can get over this very crucial crossroads that we're at right now and learn to control our negative emotions so that we don't destroy all life on our planet. So that was one of the concerns they had. Same concern for most of the people on the spirit side is that we really hope that humanity on Earth can struggle through this tough patch that we're in and learn to embrace love and compassion and raise our vibrations. So that's really their concern, but they're they're stopped by the universal law, the prime directive, from just sort of totally coming in and fixing everything that's wrong with our civilization.
Right, right. They can kind of like give us the ideas or give us the pictures or whatever. Because in the past they had given us gifts, but we chose to do harm with them instead of making it better for all. So with this here, they can like subtly give us these things, like the inventors that invented these special things here, they can give us that idea and we can go with it or not go with it. We can do it for the betterment of all, or we can do it to destroy all. So what I'm getting at is that they'd still have a way where they can kind of influence us, but it's up to us to do what we will.
That's exactly right. They have given us ideas for advanced, to advance our technological, equipment and to make life better for humans on Earth. That's the intention from these people. But sometimes some of their ideas, as you say, are used in the wrong way, are used to to promote violence and conflict, and so they're sort of helpless. They can give us the idea, hoping we'll use it the right way, but there's no guarantee that we will. And in fact, in the past, we've often used it in the wrong way. So that's just one of the frustrations that they have, and it just because it's basically they have to let our free will run its course, and if it takes us off on the wrong course, that's really not very good. But they can't sort of step in and stop it. So that's happened over the years. We've had gifts that we have misused for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Well, with that, we're going to take a little break here, and when we come back, if you have any questions for Garnet, please call in. The number is 919-295-0150, and when we come back, he will be Garnet, if you would be telling us more about you've met the Sasquatch and Irish Fairy, quite a few others, and I'm just anxious to hear about this. So don't any of you go away. We'll be right back.
You know
it's paranormal or something spooky that you want, then this is a show where you will hear all about it. Join Scott Morrow, host of The Fearless Ghost Hunter, every Saturday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Paramania Radio Network.
Destination darkness, no fear.
Do you want to hear different viewpoints on the spirit world? Then join Alan Cox as he talks with his guests about their beliefs, experiences, and delve into a diverse view of life and the afterlife. Join Alan Cox for Understanding Spirit every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, here on the Paramania Radio Network. Welcome to the all-new Paramania Radio.
Don't go by the book. Think like a pirate.
Hello and welcome back to the Web Weavers. I'm your host, Sprinkles Nixon, and today we have a wonderful and delightful and adventurous Garnet Schulhauser here with us today. And he's been sharing with us and to bring everybody back when we had asked if anybody had any questions. And there is one in the chat room, and it's from, where'd he go? Empathy. The question is, were you shown a civilization that would give us hope that we could move into the right direction?
Yes, I was, and the it was one of my visits to the Akashic Records with Albert, and it started out by me saying to him, it looks like humans on our planet have always had a lot of problems. They've always been more or less mired in the cesspool of negative emotions. Was this always the case? And he said, no. He said, I'll show you a human civilization from long ago, actually a human civilization that lived among the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. So in the Akashic Records, he showed me the civilization, and it wasn't advanced, didn't have advanced technology. They lived in a walled city. They lived very basic, simple lives close to nature, but they were a very harmonious society. There was no violence or crime because they understood their connection to the source and to each other. And they understood that how they should live in peace with one another, because that was the thing to do, and that was the way to make sure that they had a happy and fulfilled lives. And this civilization was equal in all respects between men and women. So they all shared, men and women shared the child rearing, the cooking, cleaning, hunting, clothes making, building activities. They shared them equally, and so there was no sort of like one sex dominating the other. They were all very equal, and they, as I said, they lived in harmony with their planet. They didn't pollute their planet. They respected the wildlife on the planet. They killed only what animals they needed for their own food and clothing, and they respected all the other animals and did not abuse them in any sense. They were very respectful of the other animals on the planet, and of each other, and of the Mother Earth herself. So it was very interesting that these people lived the kind of life that maybe we could. We all like our technology, but there's a lot of people who say it would be nice to move back to basics where there is no technology, no TVs, no cell phones, and where we can live without violence, without conflict, without genocide and terrorist acts and so on. This civilization did it. They were quite happy how they lived. They had no desire to develop technology, and as I said, they actually lived among the dinosaurs. And I saw one of the scenes in the Akashic Records where there was a hunting party, half men and half women, who actually hunted and killed a hadrosaurus, one of the dinosaurs that lived back then, and then sort of cut up the meat into chunks and scurried back to their walled city before a marauding Tyrannosaurus Rex got to them. And so that was sort of the conditions that they lived in, but they were very happy people. And unfortunately, their civilization was totally wiped out, not through any fault of their own, but just by pure accident, when the asteroid hit the Yucatan Peninsula, which kicked off spewed up huge tons of dust that circled the Earth and kicked off volcanoes all over the planet, and it basically caused a nuclear winter that went on for several years. That is what killed most of the dinosaurs, and this civilization, unfortunately, was buried under a couple hundred meters of lava that spewed forth from a nearby volcano. That's why the archaeologists have not discovered any remains of the civilization, because it's just buried in the lava. But very interesting for me to see that. It just shows you that humans can live in a harmonious and peaceful existence because this civilization did it a long time ago, and there's no reason that we can't do the same.
Exactly. Wow. Interesting. Okay, we have another question from Brian C. in the chat room. He wants to know, is there a difference between astral and remote viewing?
Well, as I understand remote viewing, it's when somebody is sitting in a room somewhere in one city, and they use their powers to remotely view something that's happening on a different place on the planet. But as far as I know, it's just they're seeing visions that are actually traveling there. Whereas with astral traveling, Albert would actually take me, and I would basically end up at the place I was viewing. And so it wasn't really remote viewing. I was, I traveled different places on Earth to the spirit side, different planets in the galaxy, and I was actually present there in astral form as opposed to just remote viewing. Right.
And that's how I see it as well, because when I astral, when one of the best scenes that I had was I was astraling, and I just shot myself way up as high as I can go. Okay, and then when I stopped, it was like there was this platform in front of me. I mean, there was nothing around it. There's no walls. There's nothing. But there's a platform where I knew I can walk on it. And when I walked onto it, I had seen what appeared to me to be a tall gray. But we spoke telepathy. And there was 4 doors around him. It was almost like at an intersection. And he was the guardian of or what do you call them when they stand at post? And
sentry.
Yeah, sentry. Thank you. And in this he just pointed as if I'm supposed to go through this one door. And when I went in it was like a big swoosh, swoosh back and forth of something that was going back and forth, and I didn't understand exactly what it was at first. And there was a room, and I had to walk close to the wall, but there was no wall. I had to stand to the side, and I made my way to this opening, which was a room. And in that room was a giant hole in the floor, and you can see forever down there. And to me, that astral, I was there physically. I see my whole body and everything. And to remote is when I can look to see what somebody may have on their desk. I mean, I'm just focusing on an object, and that view is shortened. So I can relate very much with what you're saying with your astral projecting there, Garnet. And there was something else I want to ask you too. I get so excited I lose my track of thought. But please do continue, because you have met quite a few different kind of people. Sasquatch, okay, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Did you meet with him? And what's the deal on him? Nobody can find him. Is he an alien? Is he really here on Earth?
Yeah, he really is a physical entity, a creature on our planet. And I met with a Sasquatch. I actually met with a female Sasquatch named Xana in the Pacific Northwest, in a forest in Pacific Northwest of America. And she was a very wise, compassionate creature. We spoke by telepathy. I was an astral form along with Albert. But anyway, she could communicate with us. And she said that their race has been living among humans for eons, basically on all the continents except Antarctica, and they have chosen to be hidden. They live in underground cities. They come out only at night and are rarely spotted by humans because they don't want to have any contact with us. She said that their race originated in Africa a long time ago, as a result of the insemination of a now extinct primate that existed on our planet with sperm from a race of humanoid extraterrestrials. So her race was sort of the result of this union, and she was like 9 feet tall. She had sort of an ape-like head. She had a muscular body covered with dark brown hair, and she was a very interesting person to talk to. She's very intelligent, as is everybody in their race. They communicate with each other by telepathy, and she says they have sort of what she called it an animal sensitive radar, which allows every one of them to detect humans from many miles away.
Wow.
And because of this, they've been very adept at escaping detection. They can see us coming from miles away, and they hide. They go into one of their caves, and they're very good at this, and that's why they've been spotted only rarely by humans, and they have no desire to change that because they view us as a violent and aggressive race, and they don't want to have anything to do with us until we change our ways. And they really would love to get to the point where they could live side by side openly on the surface of the planet with humans, and they hope that some way we will get to that stage where they can feel comfortable doing that. In the meantime, they're going to avoid us at all costs and stay hidden. So that was her story. Very kind of a tragic story in a way that this race had to live in hiding because of our propensity, humans' propensity for violence and aggression. Really unfortunate.
Yeah, very sad. Very, very sad. Because we should all be able to really live together. But it's been drummed into us to be fearful of things that we don't know. And until we learn that fear is the most powerful ruling thing that humans have, and learn to just be more of the compassionate and having more of an open mind and view on others, is what is really called for, and that's very, very difficult for a lot of us human beings. I mean, it's a natural instinct to be fearful.
Yeah, exactly, and fear is the root of basically all evil on our planet, because fear engenders anger, hate, and a lot of the other negative emotions. And if we could control and stifle our fear, and instead embrace love and compassion, we'd be way better off, and we wouldn't have all the conflicts and violence that we have on our planet. But that's a hard thing to do. There's so many people on our planet who don't even know what the problem is. Never mind how we can sort of fix it. But there's more and more people who are becoming aware of what the problem is. As Albert says, in the last 20, 30 years, more and more humans have become more spiritually aware of who they are, aware of our place in the whole scheme of things, and aware of the fact that, unless we sort of change our ways, our civilization could end badly. And so because of that increased awareness, there's more and more people who are trying to help humanity, get past this crucial crossroads that we're at right now. And he said, 30 years ago, I wouldn't have written my books, and if I had, no one would have read them. And 30 years ago, Sprinkles, you wouldn't have this radio show because no one would listen to it. There weren't enough people who were attuned to the message that you're sending out and that I write in my books. And so we've really come a long way in the last while. And so, as Albert says, the spirits are trying to send the message to humans to change our ways, and they're sending it through many, many channels. On our planet, through me when I write my books, through you, Sprinkles, on your radio show, and through many other people who host radio shows or speak at gatherings and whatever. And it's really incumbent on those who are spiritually aware, who are enlightened, to get the message out to our fellow humans so that we can sort of, one at a time, change the humans around us and make them aware of what the problem is and how we can solve it. So you're certainly doing your part, Sprinkles. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, there's a whole bunch of Sprinkles, whatever. There are a whole bunch of us because I've noticed that there's more people stepping up saying, I don't want to get into the drama stuff. It's like, don't waste your energy on this. This is not what we're here for, and we got to move forward. So it's like a lot of people are, they don't want to get pulled into a dramatic happening. Do you know what I mean? They're trying to keep their focus clear and to move ahead. They don't want to be stuck in fighting with these energies that are coming at them. So I can see that, and I've sensed it all around. People are looking more towards peace and harmony and doing what's best more for all than just a self-empowerment kind of thing, if you will. Okay. There's also, oh wait, good. I think we have another question in here. No, we didn't, but it's a funny conversation though. But so there's somebody else that you also had visited with. Moses, Jesus, Mother Mary, Lucifer, and Athena. So all of these are quite interesting, and we don't have much time, but give me your best shot. Which one most fascinated you?
Well, the most fascinating was my visit with Jesus, and how it happened was that Albert said to me, we were on the spirit side, and he said, I'm going to take you to visit not one but two souls. And he said one of them was a paragon of virtue, the other one was an evil monster. And for the life of me, I couldn't think of who he was going to introduce me to. We walked to a bench in this beautiful meadow, and there was sitting two souls. And one of them looked like Jesus Christ in a robe, and the other one, and I kid you not, was basically Adolf Hitler in his military uniform. And I was surprised, because how can you have these two polar opposites sitting on a bench and chatting amicably, having a friendly conversation? And so I went up to them, excuse me, and the person who looked like Adolf Hitler, after we were introduced, he morphed back into what he called his natural appearance on the spirit side as a handsome young man named David. And he said he showed up initially as in a military uniform just so I would easily recognize him. And he said, I was the soul who last incarnated on Earth as Adolf Hitler. And he said, I'm horribly sorry about all the hate and the destruction I caused while I was on Earth. But he said that he's come back to the spirit side. He's learned lots from his life review, and he truly regrets all of the killing that he caused when he was there. But he says that his destruction was not planned beforehand in his pre-life planning. It happened because he was in the right place at the right time, and he let his negative emotions get out of control, and hence all the destruction. And he said, this is an interesting part. He said that since he was back on the spirit side, he has met with many of the victims of his death camps who are also back on the spirit side, and he says there's been total reconciliation. He said that none of them carried forward any hatred or remorse or need for revenge against him, because once back on the spirit side, all souls realize how the cycle of life on Earth works, and none of the negative emotions they may have had on the Earth plane are carried forward back to the spirit side. So that was very interesting. And he said that aspect is hard for most people on Earth to accept, the fact that if you were murdered by someone on Earth, that when you get to the spirit side, that you won't feel like taking out a revenge on this person. He said never happens. When you get back in the spirit side, there's nothing but unconditional love among all souls, no matter what you did on Earth. And then, so Jesus was sitting there nodding his head and smiling as Matthew was telling me this. And then Jesus said, well, I was recruited by the Council of Wise Ones, long ago, to incarnate on Earth as Jesus Christ, the human being. He said that he was a master soul, and that he had learned how to focus his thoughts into powerful beams of energy, and that is how he created his miracles. So he was able to walk on water, turn water into wine, raise people from the dead, and that's just because he had learned to tap into the energy of the universe. And he said that he had hoped to spark some new light in humanity to encourage people to become more spiritually enlightened. He thought perhaps that his followers would start a new religion based on his life and death, which they did, called Christianity. But he said he didn't know how it would play out, how it would develop. And he said that the Christian church has done a lot of good things since his time, but sometimes the leaders of the church have been misguided, and they've taken the church off on the wrong track because they were following their own passion for power and control. And so there was some good things that happened, some not so good things that happened, but he said that's just the way humans play out on Earth, and you can never predict exactly where they're going to go. But so very fascinating conversation. A paragon of virtue and an evil monster, and it just shows you that what happens on Earth stays on Earth, and when people get back to the spirit side, it's a whole new ball game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. You are so full of information, and if you have not gotten the opportunity to do so, please check out his books. They're absolutely amazing. I'm still on his first one, Dancing on a Stamp, but let me tell you, you're going to want the other two, because you just have to, because this journey is fascinating, and I'm so happy to have you share this with us so that we all can see things in a different light, kind of thing here, and maybe we can still step up and do some good with all the changes that are happening around us today.
Well, I'm delighted to do my part, Sprinkles, and thank you for inviting me back on your show. And I think that when we get together like this, hopefully we can spread the good word to other people, and help our fellow humans, take a next step up the spiritual ladder.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Dickie John says, no remorse, no consequences for wrongdoing. It's kind of like we're learning of ourselves, I would believe. Got to get more into this. Garnet, I'm going to have you come back. Are you writing another book?
Yes, I'm almost finished book 4. I'd be happy to come back on your show anytime, Sprinkles.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, folks, time's up. We got to go, and hope you enjoyed the show. Please forward any questions to myself or even to Garnet. I posted his sites up there, and thank you all for being here. I deeply appreciate it, and hope you all learned something from this. Love and light, everybody.
But if you